Welcome to the Public Sector Show by Tech Table. Super excited to have you all on the show and returning guest, Mr. Chris Stewart. Chris, last time you were on the podcast, I was going to say Big Sky, but no, we actually did one in Texas.
Good.
I won't spoil your intro, but give us a short intro.
I'm Chris Stewart. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer now of WRITA Data Solutions. I'm a reseller based out of Austin, Texas, formerly a CIO for the city of Austin. Before that, Air Force. I had a really long and fantastic career in service and government, in particular local government. So it's great to be at another great conference with local governments and out here in the West and Southwest. It's been really great.
Now, we've got two episodes we'll link back to in the show notes with Chris. One was in Big Sky, Montana, where we did have a bear. It was kind of awesome. At the Airbnbs, which I was talking to somebody last night who was like, I still can't believe you pulled that off. I remember when you pitched me this idea and I was like, this is too crazy. And nope, we pulled it off. 2 7-bedroom Airbnbs in Big Sky, Montana. I actually forgot to record the podcast. You remember that? I forgot to record. We started recording at 10 p.m. at night. And it was like, oh, why did everyone come here? Oops. It was a late night. But we got it done. It was great. Great episodes. I think people were pretty tired, but it was a lot of fun. And then we recorded one at TAG, ITM, which was great.
A lot different. That was out in the open in the public.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, though. A lot of attention.
Yeah, out in the wild. There were a lot of people walking by. It would almost be like if we did this like in a main floor and people were like, oh, Scott, like while the camera's rolling, they're giving you hugs and
a lot of weird looks.
Like, what's going on? Mary, give us a quick intro.
Hi, thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me on. It's super exciting. My name is Mary Wynne. I am the CEO of Fusion Learning Partners. We are a nonprofit organization based in Minneapolis, but we have staff across the country. We have 2 main divisions for Fusion Learning Partners. One is our Catalyst Solutions group. That group serves organizations like WRITA, supports them with their organizational needs, their events, their membership, marketing, financials, all of those kinds of things. So we support public sector in that way. And then our other division also supports the public sector. It's the Public Technology Institute. And just as the name implies, we serve public technology leaders like Scott and folks here at WRITA with educational services. We do consultation. We are also a membership-based organization, so a national membership group. So we really lean into creating community, creating events like this that really bring people together, help people to learn, help people to grow, connect them with wonderful private sector partners. So yeah, we're really a connector and a convener organization. Love doing it.
Love it. So you also have a conference, right?
We do.
Yeah. You want to tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. So the Public Technology Institute, as I said, it is a national membership-based organization. So we also do a conference for PTI called the Govit Leadership Summit and Symposium. And unless somebody tells me otherwise out there in the world, I do believe it is the longest running public technology conference in the country. We're celebrating 45 years this year of that event. It also happens to be our 50th anniversary as an organization, and PTI has been around for 55 years. So this is a really fun year for us, anniversary year. But yeah, that event takes place in November in Minneapolis, Bloomington, actually a suburb, in November. So we're really looking forward. We have about 500-600 people that come together for that and hope to see you all there.
That was a great overview. I had never heard of Govit until I think last fall when a friend of mine, Chris Shergwin, who's the CIO for the County of Santa Barbara.
Good friend of ours.
Yeah, told me, he was like, hey, have you ever heard of it? Or he was asking me, we had coffee. Have you ever heard of this? No, I'd never heard of it. And he was like, I think it would be really cool. So then I actually texted him. I was like, hey, do you know Mary? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, so I'm going to be coming. He's like, oh, yay, another plane ride together. We've taken, I think, maybe 6 or 7 plane rides to the same events that we've been at. And I will be there.
So happy. We're excited to have you.
Super excited. Mary sold me on the fact that there was like a Lego land there. And Jack, my 7-year-old.
I did. I shamelessly baited him with
Legoland. The way to a man's heart, Legoland. Scott, give us a quick intro.
So I'm Scott Conn. I'm the current CIO and IT director for the city of Mesa, Arizona, and also the chairperson of the Western Regional Innovation and Technology Alliance, better known as WRITA, which is this conference. And I got to tell you, Joe, it's an absolute honor to be on your podcast. Even bigger honor to have you accept our invitation to come on out here and check out the conference for yourself. The fact that you're doing that impressed everybody that, oh, Joe Tosti's coming out to do this. This is very cool. Thank you for having me on your podcast. And as I think I've mentioned to you in an earlier conversations, this is my 3rd career, starting out in the private sector, then becoming an overpriced executive consultant for 20 years, selling that company, and now here I am in the middle of government service.
When we met for the intro call that we had, I think just hearing your background and reflecting on some of the emails, I think people had mentioned WRITA before. And I think a lot of times, like, this is not for WRITA or for PTI, but I've just found there are so many nonprofits in public sector. And so I tend to get a little bit jaded where I'm like, but do you actually care? Do you have any heart behind the organization? Because I care, and I travel all around the country. But it was cool to hear you care so much about this. And I was like, hey, you know what? I think this would be really cool if we make this happen. So I didn't even fly here. I rented a Tahoe and loaded up everything and cruised on out. It was a lot of fun. Not the 9-hour drive. Actually, it was a little fun, but the Tahoe made it nice. So anyways, I do want to kick off specifically with WRITA. There are a lot of folks who don't know about this. I didn't know about this. He didn't even know about this till I posted it. So Scott, love to start with you. What's the origin story?
I started out in the public sector in California, at the city of Concord and then at the city of Modesto. And California has an organization known as MESAC, Municipal Information Systems Association of California. And it was a completely unique concept because most organizations you join in the IT world and the public sector are very specific on who they let in and who they don't let in. I've never been a fan of CIOs-only clubs. They tend to sit around a conference table, eat a Jersey Mike's sub sandwich, pat each other on the back, and tell each other how great they are. And you really don't get much value out of that. Obviously, you've done good things in your career to even get to that position to begin with. I don't need anybody telling me, hey, nice job. What I valued was, in MESAC's case, they let everybody in your IT organization, whether it's your help desk person or your GIS person or your engineer or the person in charge of desktop replacement, they let them all in on this club so that they could collaborate with one another. They could talk. A help desk person can talk to a help desk person in different geographic locations. So when I first got to Arizona at Mesa 2.5 years ago, I was invited into the Arizona CIO Club, ACIO. And it's a worthwhile organization, and it's filled with a lot of great individuals. But it was sitting in a conference room eating Jersey Mike's subs, telling each other how great we were. And I simply asked them all, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we did an organization that let all of us collaborate, all of your team members? So Mesa can collaborate with Phoenix or Flagstaff or Tucson and everybody unanimously said, that is brilliant. We should do that. And then they turned around and went, okay, Scott, go make it happen. And that's when I realized my mistake, that I was now on the hook to go and build this thing. So it started with that. And then something unique happened. Once the folks in Arizona started going to other conferences and talking to their peers, next thing I know, I get a call from Aaron Bentley in Salt Lake City. And he says, hey, Scott, I heard about this WRITA thing. Can we be a member? I said, don't you have anything like this in Utah? And he goes, no. I said, yeah, sure, why not? And then Provo called, and then Western Villages called. And then we get calls from La Cruces, New Mexico, Albuquerque, Boise, Idaho, Great Falls, Montana. And before we knew it, we had 7 states that did not have any kind of full organization collaboration in place that wanted to be members. And so we opened it up to all of the above. And we've got 850 members in the database right now. We've got the 7 states engaged, and we're growing like a weed. And this is just amazing.
Yeah. And I think that was a really great opening and description. I think, like, I've been to so many conferences where I've been really thinking about, like, the biggest value for a lot of the team members is just like the encouragement of keep going back year after year. Because I think if you just go once a year or skip, or you're just so busy, even for leaders talking about the Jersey Mike subs, it's just funny. A lot of leaders, I think the risk is they're so busy, they're never off their phone, their laptop, they can't actually engage with anybody, can't actually do the strategic work that they should be doing as a leader, because they're so far in the weeds. And so I really liked that. It's like bringing everyone together. And yeah, that would be my encouragement to folks too. You came this year, but then don't come back 2 years from now. Come back, in this case, whenever I think you just posted it. I was like I was snapping a photo. So September 1st to the 3rd, did I get that right?
Yeah, so we're planning 2 events a year. Okay. One's called the Fall Summit. It's a much smaller, more intimate situation with 60 to 70 C-level people attending. And again, you don't have to be a C-level to attend, but we only allow 4 vendors to sponsor the event. And each of those vendors get a chance they get an hour in front of a captured audience, so to speak, to present a solution. We don't let them sell. You can't come in with your top-notch salespeople. It's got to be something you've implemented, hopefully for a WRITA member that you are now sharing with the other WRITA members and saying, this really worked and here's why. That's what people will come and listen to and be engaged with. So we do that as a smaller event, and that will happen in Salt Lake City, September 1st through the 3rd, this coming fall. And then we do the spring conference. And we chose spring because we didn't want to compete with all the other conferences seem to go late summer. And in the case of GovIT, they're into November, which is one of the last conferences of the year. Smart on their part. And I attend that one every year too. It's a great conference, really well done. But that same team is the one that's putting on this inaugural spring conference for WRITA. And I got to tell you, I've been thoroughly impressed with the professionalism. And as you point out, CIOs, and Chris will attest to this, we don't have time to do the day-to-day, right? We're the strategic vision, and here's where we want to head, and how do we make this happen? And then you hire people to implement that. And what I want to point out is Mary's company, Fusion Learning Partners, won a competitive bid to become WRITA's day-to-day operator. So she has her team here running this thing, and it's so far running like a Swiss watch.
Oh, thank
you. We're
you.
real pleased for that.
Thank you very much. They'll be very happy to hear that.
So now I'm curious, how did this relationship between the two of you happen for WRITA? Was there a coffee, an email? Well, what's like the behind the scenes story?
So I'll start. I'll let you finish. Okay. Dr. Alan Sharp was one of the founders, I believe, of the Public Technology Institute, PTI. And
this guy, that
There's
guy.
our book.
And Alan really was the founder of what was known as the Certified Government CIO program, a year-long program where you are engaged every month for 12 months and being taught 12 different disciplines of being a legitimate leader CIO in a government agency. And he did this in cooperation with Rutgers University in the beginning and has since had several other partners since then. But I was told about the program from a friend, and so I went and I enrolled myself to become a certified government CIO, and I got to meet Dr. Sharp, and we just hit it off. And the guy is absolute aces. He's brilliant beyond belief, has done so many great things in his career. And we just engaged and we started figuring out how could you expand that program. And on a Mesa related note, I have put 5 people through the CGCIO program already. And they all come back. It's still as valid as it was when I took it. They all come back just saying, holy smokes, that was the greatest thing I ever went to.
I talked to a few more yesterday, so you might be getting some more requests. Sorry about your budget, but
yeah, that's okay. It's good. But Mary's company went and actually acquired PTI. And that's how Mary and I linked up. And the first interactions we had were at the GovIT leadership. So I go just to listen to the content. It's awesome. But that's how Mary and I got to meet.
And it was right as you were conceiving the idea of WRITA, really putting the ideas together, and you were starting to think about an operating partner. So the timing was just perfect.
And there were three folks that were in the running, and I didn't even realize that Fusion Learning Partners was doing this, but they were doing it for other associations until I had met her. She said, hey, we do this. I said, okay, I'm sending you an RFP. And then lo and behold, they won it, and for all the right reasons. And we have not been disappointed.
And I think if I could say, I think one of the reasons that we edged out the others, I don't know who they were, but is because of our Public Technology Institute. So we're not just an association management company. There's a million of those. They're very capable. They would have done a great job too. But we bring that extra piece of our Public Technology Institute to the table. So our book, for instance, that you just held up, WRITA members are PTI members as well. They can get a discount on the book. They can be invited to write a chapter in the next book, right? Or our learning programs, as Scott just mentioned, the CGCIO, they get the discounts now. So we bring that extra, I think, to the table, and we're just really pleased to do that, right? We're all in this together. So yeah, we're very pleased to be supporting public sector technology leaders.
I love it. My last plug, people ask me all the time and start calling me out. Hey, you talk about a lot of books, you read them all. And so I'm going to just be fully transparent. I've only read Chris Sherwin's organizational culture piece. I don't even know what chapter it is. I'm sorry, Chris. Oh, I think I found it too. But the reason, I love what Chris had. I'm sure there are many other great stories in there. Scott, did you write one in here that I could go read?
You know what? I don't think so.
This time.
It would have been numerous years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. What I'm curious is if my assistant CIO, Paul Paledna, has his in there, because he gave his last year before this was published, before it was put together. And they were so engaged. They usually limit you when you present your final thing, they limit you to 10, 15 minutes. Paul was going for a half hour until Dr. Shark finally said, okay, I want to know the end of that story, but we got to stop you. So I'll bet you his might be in there. I'm going to have to look.
Love it. Okay, so we're going to link to the organizations in the show notes. But one topic that I was ruminating on that is just all around public sector that I keep hearing is just doing more with less. This is a common theme, doing more with less. And a lot of folks will say, we don't have budget, times are lean, but they were saying the same thing when times were good. I was like, interesting. I think I don't have any survey data. I don't have any quantitative data, but just qualitative data, just talking to people around the country, CIOs in particular, about just where they're at. So I just want to first get the landscape. So Chris, you were at the city of Austin, so you've got a pretty good perspective. Give us the lay of the land of where you think we are today.
Yeah, we see a lot of folks with free data. We're all around Texas and we're around the country as well. And what I think we're seeing a lot of is it is more with less right now. And you're right. I don't think anybody ever yells, I have too many resources, too much money. But right now it's very lean. I think at best we're seeing flat budgets, but more often than not, it's budget cuts right now. And on the other side of it, the real problem is the increased costs. I think in particular around hardware and technology, we had folks that budgeted a year ago or a year and a half ago. They've got budgetary quotes, and a year later, they are much, much higher. So not only do they have a little bit less budget, the costs have gone up so drastically. So the agencies that were really pushing things to the breaking point, now is a really awful time for them to say, hey, what am I going to cut? What am I going to replace? I need this new system. I need this new hardware. My infrastructure is failing. And now is not a great time for them. It's very tough. So I think we're actually seeing it when they're saying do more with less right now. Even just doing the same with less is really hard.
Yeah. And I think something that I've seen from the vendor partner side, just inflation costs, we're not giving you any additional value. Vendor partners are often not giving additional value. They're just increasing. I'm not going to name any vendors. Sure. I don't want to get cooked, but yeah, they're just increasing. I need an extra $1 million for this or whatever. And so I think exploring like what do leaders do in this situation is pretty hard. Scott, I'd love to hear from you. How are you handling mid-2026 of where we're at right now?
It comes down to your philosophy. When the budget's getting tightened and you're in tight times, here in Mesa, we're in year 3 of 2% budget cuts. And it's not just the IT department, it is across the board, all departments. And so you adapt your philosophy to deal with it so that you can hopefully keep the level of services you're delivering to the residents of the city at the same level or minimal disruption, right? So in our case, it's a philosophy of tools first, people second. So how can we leverage technology tools with the advent of artificial intelligence coming in? How do we control that, leverage it in a way that allows us to be more efficient with less human resources involved? And so far, we've matched a successful formula where we are doing that here in Mesa. And sharing what we're doing with all the other agencies. Hey, have you guys tried this? Have you tried that? And it seems to be taking hold. But it's not just let's throw tools at it. It was pointed out in one of the sessions here at the conference. You have to have your tool strategy. Okay, so we seek out the vendors that have the tools that enable us to do more with less, and that's their value proposition. So I'm sure all of us here get 100 plus emails a day. Even Chris, even vendors get emails from vendors, and I'm getting 100 plus. And unless they give me a value proposition in those first 2 sentences of the email, here's how we can help you meet this strategic initiative that your mayor said he wanted to do. And here's the success rate we've had. It's the delete button. Okay. I'm not paying attention to them. It's noise. Give me a proposition of value. Show me how you can make me do more with less in 2 sentences. Now I'm going to read it, and it might get you a 15-minute meeting. And that's what I tell them. And the vendors hate it. Hey, we have a 1-hour presentation, a demo we want to do for you. And you need this person and this person in the room. It's no, I'm giving you 15 minutes of my time. And if you don't convince me the value's there in 15, you don't get to go to the 1-hour meeting. But if you do, then I will put the right people in the room. And now you're on stage and show me what you got. And right now the ratio is probably 2 out of 10 get to the 1 hour. It's sad. They don't know how to capture what they're going to do specifically for my city.
And you said the right word. I think it's partner. That's one thing I really talk to a lot of IT organizations. You have vendors, you have resellers, but you have partners. And there's a big difference, and your partner should be coming to you proactively. Costs are going sky high. How can we help? One of the things you mentioned is the tools. A lot of people have these great, wonderful tools and don't realize they're not using the full value of them. So the first thing we do before we sell you something is, hey, are you actually using the tools that you have? I know you've got this tool set that does many more things. You're using the primary function. Maybe there's a better tool that can do this thing over here, but do you need to go spend that money? Can you just utilize what you've already purchased? You've already have this in-house. So we really try to help people in that. And to me, that's a partnership. It's a long strategy. It's years of relationship building, but your vendors tend to, a lot of them are just very transactional. And I'd love to sell you a new product, Scott. I'd love to sell you some AI tools, and you don't get the other side where it's, well,
Chris, you hit the nail on the head with your partner knows what your initiatives are. They know what the city council said. These are our 3 things this year. And your partner knows that and can come and offer solutions. And that's when we are open and we will listen. A lot of the other ones, it's just they're casting a wide net. Just it's a theory of numbers for them. Wrong way to approach it in today's market.
I love that I'm sitting in the middle right now, because honestly, this is a big part of what our organization does. We are an agnostic, right, convener of both the private sector and the public sector. So at events like this or our event, this is what we do. We bring, and we don't call them vendors. We call them, it's our business partnership program. We want to elevate private sector to that partnership role. Come to our event, talk about your partnership, talk about the things that you do, learn from the public sector folks about what their pain points are, what their needs are. These kinds of events are a great opportunity for those discussions to happen. So you don't have to worry about getting 15 minutes on his calendar when he's right here in front of you or in a session, right? I love that. Because that's when magic happens. When you bring private sector, public sector, and the nonprofit, again, in the middle, this is really good seating. That's when the magic happens, really. We all have our role in this.
Yeah, I think it's funny. I've got a couple of thoughts. I was talking to a CIO who said, Joe, I found $1.7 million in unused cell phones. I was like, wow, that money? Can you write me that check? And there's a lot of, I think another one was like, hey, we found another $3 million in unused like software licenses. We just turned it off. He told me that I think only one person came back and said, hey, I need this. Okay, cool. There is so much savings. And I think about this like a small business owner constantly, like software bloat. It always happens. And unless you are willing to constrain it, it will keep just expanding. And so it's the same thing. Every quarter, it's okay, what am I using? What am I not using? And everything scales, right? And so if you have bloat, it's going to scale across the organization. And so going back to the lean times, it's not necessarily a bad thing that you've got to trim some stuff down. Sometimes it means, hey, how can we get more creative with the resources that we have? And I got to do this all the time. I remind folks, they'll go, oh yeah, you're in the private sector. And I'm like, I'm not Amazon, right? We have different stages of business. I am a small business owner. So, I got to get super creative. And I'll just give one right off the top of my head. I'm thinking about this right now. I remember I went to Houston and I rented for the first time. We did this at a Hotel Zaza. It was super bougie. It was incredible. It looked magnificent. Next year they came back and they were like, the price has tripled. And I was like, and after I'd already signed a contract and they were not like willing to honor, I was like, okay, fine. We're pulling out. No way we're paying triple. And last minute, my wife's, you should just eat the cost. There's no way everyone's going to move. I moved everyone to a co-working spot and it was epic. It was like a totally epic thing. And so I just learned like the creativity piece can actually be a huge benefit. And
did they ever come back to you and try and get you to come back, or when they realized what they had just done?
No, I think they just said goodbye.
Oh.
Yeah, it was just a goodbye. And different places. So you talk about building partnerships is really great. Like I'm got a partnership with Grand Canyon University and they're like, we would love to have you come. I'm like, okay, great. I'm going to host that event at GCU next month. And just finding creative ways. I think sometimes we think this is the box of like how we're supposed to do stuff, but you can actually think outside the box, which helps your constituents, the residents. Anyways, so I want to keep going on this. Just this theme of, so now you've got to make these hard decisions. So you have to communicate this, which is not a technical aspect, right? So there's a leadership aspect, right? Chris, we'll go with you and we'll go down. In your experience and also what you're seeing from leaders right now, how are leaders communicating this today? Because I know that if you go down the line, there are folks who are like, ooh, am I going to get laid off? All I see in the news are people getting laid off. So how should leaders handle that conversation today?
Well, I actually had a conversation with a CIO this morning in quite a large city in Texas. And he had talked a lot about expectation setting. He said that's a big part of his job is just setting expectations properly so that people are aware and you're being transparent, I think, in that if you're properly setting expectations. So don't make it seem grandiose or make it seem the opposite. Okay, we're all, they'll feed into, you got to be afraid and budget cuts. So you guys better cut your budgets or bad things will happen. So I think that was really great. I like that he was dedicated to this idea of you really have to be able to set expectations clearly and appropriately. So that, again, we're not setting people up for that fear or this success that may never happen. We don't always succeed at some of our projects. Our hearts get too big for what we can actually accomplish in a given year or with a given budget. But yeah, I think beyond that, it's just really good communication, making sure that it's coming from the right place. I've seen some really great leaders that make sure they're the voice and they want to be that. It doesn't come from a communications team. They want to come from their leadership perspective instead of maybe even higher up. Some organizations, your counselor may or your city manager, your judges may want to be that voice. It's really, I think, important for IT leaders to make sure that they are talking to their organization and all leaders, frankly, not just IT, but they want to make sure that they have that voice and it's coming down from above, that this is the strategy. I want you to know how we fit into that strategy.
Yeah. And I think one of the leaders, I heard this from, I can't remember what CIO said it, but it was really good. Part of the CIO job is to protect the people, your tribe below, because there's a lot of noise that's happening up here. And if you let that filter down the team, the morale is just going to go. That's what I think what also makes it a really tough job is you're that layer. Did you say that?
I've heard him say that for sure.
See, it was somewhere in my brain. Maybe it was the podcast intro call just floated into my head right now at this point. So you said, okay, yeah. So tell me more.
It's a matter of look, you need to protect, as you called it, your tribe. The fun part is figuring out what's noise versus what is pertinent and things that they should know so that they can be effective in their positions and in their jobs. When we've got folks determining above the department how they're going to manage the budget, how they're going to make cuts, how they're going to be fiscally responsible, they throw out all kinds of different possibilities. And people hear that and the rumors start. And if you leave people to their own devices talking about, oh, I heard that they're going to do this and they're going to lay people off and they're going to do that, the other thing, it's important as the leader to get in there frequently and get in there before any of that gets decided and say, look, these are the options. These are the things being discussed, and just be transparent about it so that it helps allay people's fears. And in our case, our city management has been excellent at outlining what our fiscally conservative strategy is going to be. And they do it with a long-term lens. They don't do it, okay, this year it's going to be this. Okay, they say, look, we project over the next 3 years that this is what's going to happen to us financially. And they have data behind it. It's not just my gut feel is there's legitimate data behind it. In Mesa's case, the state of Arizona used to have a rental tax. If you were renting a property, an apartment or a home, there was a 2% rental tax. And the state legislature voted several years ago to take that away and give the money back to the residents. So being a renter at the time, I thought that was a great thing, right? But being a city employee, that was going to impact our budget by many tens of millions of dollars. And it just shed a light on, okay, now we got to take a look, tighten the belt because we're losing that money. So we did, and the city management did a spectacular job at saying, we're going to start now, even though we don't have to, we're going to start now trimming the budget at 2% this year, 2% next year, 2% the year after, as opposed to doing the Big Bang Theory. Okay, we've hit the wall, we're going to cut 15%. And that's when you really feel the impact. At 2%, yes, it hurts, but it's recoverable. But 15% in a year, that is drastic, right? So our team was told the strategy and they understood we were facing those times ahead. So in the case of the Department of Innovation and Technology, and Joe, I want to point out on this podcast, Mesa was the first to use the do it term. Everybody else is jumping on this now. Okay, everybody calling themselves do it, but Mesa was the first. And we're proud of that, obviously. But my team understands where we are, where we're headed. And we are hoping that this next fiscal year is the last year where we're going to have to do this. And we may just get into a sustained mode, no cuts, but keeping where we are, again, being fiscally conservative and smart. And hopefully things turn out better. And current projections, the tax revenues coming in for the city are better than what we were originally projecting. but they're not going to just open the doors and say, okay, departments go spend now. They're going to be very smart about it. And being a business person, I appreciate that. And so does my team.
That's really great. Yeah, I think a lot of the agencies I've talked to who are doing the best right now had some form of reserves in their city or county. And then the other question, actually follow-up question I had for you, I was thinking about was there is this trend right now where there are younger CIOs coming in, a lot of them from the private sector, and they've actually have done nothing in public sector before. And so I was curious, like, what advice would you give to some younger, the kind of next generation CIOs, specifically around they get this job and now they're like, oh, I got to handle budget cuts. This is crazy.
Wow. Multiple ways to go with that one. But the first thing that came to mind was trust your people. Okay. If you're coming in from the private sector, usually you are used to working at a certain pace, and it's fast now, make a decision. I don't have to get approvals elsewhere. I can just make the decision, move the team forward, and let's get into action. When you're working in the government, there are many other considerations, and there's compliance and policy regulations and management regulations. You need to be very aware that there are many other people you need to inform other than just making a decision and going forward with your team, and make sure you've got their buy-in before you make that happen. Now, does that mean you have to slow down to the traditional government crawl? Absolutely not. Very first thing I told my team in an all-hands meeting when I came on board was, someone asked me, what would your previous team say about you? And I said, they would say that Scott Conn works at a different speed than other people, and you will learn to work at that same speed. And what occurred was, in the first year, a little bit of turmoil in my department, I admit, because I am pushing them and I'm challenging them and I'm trying to get them to speed up a little bit and let's go help our customers. And our customers are really the internal departments. We have a little bit to do with the general public and the residents, but mainly the internal departments of the city, supplying them with the technology they need to deliver the services to the residents. But after the first year, they're now at speed. And they look back on it and they tell me, we look around at other entities that are doing something similar to what we did, and we're going, why aren't you done yet? So they truly have made that jump to the next gear. And it's something that all of us as a team are very proud of.
Okay, so talk about just a little bit. You had said it was a little bumpy, a little rocky in the beginning.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is a bad thing. So you've got change, there are new humans, new expectations. Just talk a little bit on how did you go about getting their buy-in, like really tactically getting their buy-in? Because I think it's easy to say, hey, I got your buy-in. And I mentioned this on the podcast a lot. When I coach high school basketball, especially like the JV basketball team, every year you lose your best players to varsity and then players get cut. And so you're left with only a few returning. And so you get new incoming freshman class, the best players go to JV, and then you are trying to get their buy-in to believe in the system. And so like I have something called like the van ride, right? And so kids hop in the van, you go to an away game. I started seeing the team dynamic change when they're eating Cane's, Chick-fil-A, whatever. So what did you do to tactically get buy-in for your team?
I'm a big believer of team building. I coached 12 years of high school football and won some championships. I coached 18 years of women's varsity basketball and won some championships. And exactly like you say, Joe, every year there's a rotation of the players, new ones and old ones departing. It's always different, but the way you get the buy-in is you got to walk the talk. Okay. I have known CIOs from other entities and talk with them at tables, and I'm not going to name names, but you sit there and your first thought is, how the heck did you get that job? Because they will tell you point blank, look, my team's job is to make me look good so I can get promoted to the next level. And if you want me to disrespect you immediately, you just tell me that, right? It should be my job is to take my team and do everything I can to give them a growth opportunity and a chance at the future, and then walk that talk. Make sure they know that this is for their good. I want you to go make the speech. I've made enough speeches in my life. I want you to be the one getting the award. I want you standing up on stage. I want you going to this training course. That's what does it. And in the beginning, my team is looking at me going, I'm not sure this guy's real. He's saying all the right stuff, but is it really happening? And right now, I think if you were to ask most of them, not all of them, there's always, you can't please everybody. That would be another advice to a young CIO. Trust me, you cannot make everybody happy. You're not going to do it. Focus on the good performers and really make them happy and give them the opportunity, but then walk the talk. Okay. Be authentic.
I really appreciate you saying that, Scott. That was the word. It's authenticity. that was huge for me was just being an authentic person. And government's one of the things that's a bit different is those long career cycles. Typically, government, you're there for a very long time. Many times we have pensions, and you've got decades of folks who've been there, and you're taking over. You're brand new. They've been doing their job for 20 years. Who were you? And so that change is a little slower. And whenever I hired managers from public sector, that was one of the hard things, was getting them to slow down a bit, but push where you can, but don't run into walls. And let me help you not run into those walls. And they can get very frustrated at the pace because they want to make a change. They see where they can do it. But I try to redirect them into things where they can add and they can make a change, and kind of steer them away from the things where you're not going to succeed. Do the things to succeed. Same thing when I had taken over with the city of Austin. We were going through a lot of change. It was more cultural at that point. And there was some mistrust, but luckily I'd been with the city long enough where I came in with a little bit of trust, and they know I had done many of the jobs before, but I was just myself. That's just who I am. And that was seen as something that was very positive. It built that trust, but also gave it some time. And one of the things I wanted to do right away was accountability was really big for me. It's one of my core values. And that goes both ways. That term can be deemed negative, that it's always a negative thing. And it's absolutely not. When I hold you accountable to something, it's because I trust you can do it. So to me, it is a trust mechanism to hold people accountable. And funny story, when I first got in there, we just done a round of performance reviews. And I just showed up and I looked at them and I was like, wow, I ran an organization of about 330 people. And we didn't have one person that didn't meet expectations that year. That's amazing. But I'm hearing the opposite from the teams, that there's some things we're not doing well. And we had a bunch of people who were as successful as you can be, all the way to the top. Wow, this organization, what I'm hearing and seeing doesn't match. And so I talked to the leadership, hey, we're going to really set appropriate levels of expectations and hold people to them, accountability. And that next mid-year, nobody exceeding expectations. Okay, so there's some overcorrecting here. We have to build that trust again. It's a process. But by the third one, and we do them every 6 months, it looked much better. So, okay, we have some people who need some help. We have some people that are doing wonderful things. There's a lot of folks somewhere in the middle. That made a lot more sense. So that's when I knew that, okay, there's some buy-in. At first, it was some mistrust. At first, they take it a little too literally and go a little too far. But eventually it equals out, and they actually trust you and follow the path that you've set.
And I will say, you're right, Chris. And one of the things that attracted me to Fusion and to Mary in particular is I'm always watching. I would go to the conferences and I'd watch her in action and what she did with her team. I'd go, okay, that person knows what they're doing. I can get in league with Mary. And that's just built the relationship even.
And obviously not a CIO, but a CEO. And I would say that what I'm hearing from both of these gentlemen and what I observe and hopefully play out in my own life is that the best leaders are the best learners, right? The minute you stop learning, you say, I know it all. My team is just here to make me look good. You're not a leader. Leaders continually learn and they continually give back. And so when I'm looking at a young leader, the first thing I want to say is, what are you learning? What do you need to learn? And then who do you need to learn it from? And how can we connect you? And I think that's one of the things Scott does so brilliantly too as a leader. He himself sought out coaching, right? Hired an executive coach. I've had an executive coach. I look for mentors. And it's, again, a big reason why I'm passionate about what we do at Fusion. We provide ongoing learning, right? We have a CGCIO course for CIOs, right? Not because necessarily to tell them exactly how to do their job, but so that they have a cohort, a group that they can continue to learn from and share with. That's really where the magic happens. Thank you, Scott, for
It's
saying
the truth.
that.
It was fun. It's been fun to watch. I'm still watching.
Yeah, I know.
Literally live. Yeah, literally live. So this is a whole other podcast. I'm not going to dive into it, but the accountability piece, I think a lot of folks think is negative. It's actually really good. I love that you mentioned like the cohorts. I think that's actually probably the biggest gap in public sector leadership right now is actual CIOs wanting to be held accountable. I sat last year, I think I was telling you about this, in Nashville with Chris and Craig Hopkins, who is the outgoing CIO for the city of San Antonio. And they said, we really want to create this group. It's got to be small. It's like a tight band, no more than 12. That's it. That's the cap of CIOs. But the deal is we want to hold each other accountable and we want to become better leaders. And that was the kind of what formed this. And then we had our first there was like, I think we had eight CIOs, majority just because Texas, I don't know why Texas is such a large market for me. I think like 30% of my audience is in Texas, but
It's a big state, Jeff.
it's a big state. Yeah, it's a big
Everything's
state.
big in Texas.
It was a big state. Everything is big in Texas. And we were just like really having the concept of, do you really want to become a better leader, or are you doing it for an award? And it's like actually a tough question because a lot of people actually want the award. And I realized, okay. And then the flip side was I was resistant to having an advisory board. And I was like, why would I have an advisory board? Most advisory boards aren't real. It's just like a scam. And then they're like, no, we want to hold you accountable. And I was like, okay. So now we're in business. So we meet once a month. And someone like Chris, for example, is really helpful because he ran a business, right? If you've never run a business, you cannot comprehend that piece of it. I talk about humility on the podcast a lot, and I'm open to hearing, hey, how are you doing this? Could we do it better? What are the gaps that I have? What do you see as you guys get to know me more? And I think there are a million groups out there, but like you should be in something that is a true group, not like a fluffy award group. You should be in a real group, to get better. With that, one of my favorite quotes, I say this on the podcast a lot, it's not mine, it comes from a guy named Craig Rochelle, but when the leader gets better, everyone gets better. I firmly believe that. We're going to end. Any closing thoughts, Chris, as we close out this podcast?
I just wanted to thank everybody for WRITA. This guy just heard about it. Appreciate your organization for letting me join and come here with Joe. It's been
and Texas has something similar. They have a very strong group in Texas.
We do
that lets everybody collaborate together.
You should come to that one just to see it.
No, I would love to.
Yeah, Shane. We both know Shane McDaniel. He was the president before, and there's a few other folks who are really great. But anyways, I'll let you.
They're fantastic. It's Tag ITM. It is. It's very similar. It's been around for a little while, so they've been doing this a bit. But it's a similar thing. It's the same issues, same topics that we're all going through. So it's really great. But even in Texas, it's hard to get folks from all over Texas into one spot. Yeah. Like here, it's with the 7 states, it can be a little tough to get around, but
it's a challenge. But if you have the value there and people understand it, and that's what we're facing, is because none of these states have ever had this kind of collaboration across the board before. A lot of them are sitting on the fence going, hey, I hear you're going to the WRITA thing. You come back, tell me whether that was good, bad, or ugly. So they're kind of waiting before they jump in the water, so to speak. So we're hoping we put on a good enough value proposition here.
And keep up the goal of it not being a sales pitch in every session.
And the vendors have been tremendous. I got to hand them all credit. I walk the hall and I shake their hands and I say hi and I say, you're not selling anybody. We emphasize the message and they get it.
That's what the expo hall's.
Yeah,
exactly. I would just like to say thank you again for doing this and for what you do, because these conversations are just as important as sitting in a session and learning. The informal learning and peer learning is huge. And tying it back to the budget issues, one of the things I get concerned about when I hear about budget cuts is one of the first things that companies or governments do is they cut the professional development line, right? They cut that. And I would just really plead with CIOs and leaders out there, really think twice about that, because this is so important for not only the continuous learning of your staff and yourself, but for that camaraderie, for that feeling of inspiration of why you're doing your job. When you can get people to come to an event like this just for a couple of days, it can really boost morale, really boost that inspiration. And again, we're very pleased to do what we do, to help WRITA do what they do, our conference, our events, our learning programs. Yeah, just everybody keep coming, hanging in there.
Yeah, you can't cut to zero. That's the first thing. You can't cut to zero. And if you don't invest in yourself and you're not getting better, you don't actually stay stagnant. You actually go backward. You go backwards. Yeah.
So I've got an observation with a short story and then a quote for you to wind up here, Joe. The observation is, okay, here the three of us are sitting here, and the guy from Texas, 30% of your audience doesn't have a hat on, and the guy from Mesa does. Okay, so I'm shocked, Chris, shocked.
My apologies.
On behalf of Texas, he apologizes.
No, it's funny. And I was in Texas last week at another conference, and I wore my hat, and I said, I had to wear it because I'm in Texas. But people in Mesa do as well. As a matter of fact, our mayor's signature is he wears his cowboy hat and he wears his bowler tie. And the short story is we hadn't had a mayor come and do it in 22 years, I've been told. And he requested to get a presentation about what we're doing with AI. And so I had my team all set up. We had a presentation all done. And I told everybody, go out and get yourself a cowboy hat. Everybody in the room had a cowboy hat on. And he gets out of his truck and people are looking out the window going, does he have his hat on? Does he have his hat on? Yeah, he just put his hat on. So he came in and he was almost in tears, laughing about, oh my God, it's the best meeting I've ever been to. And you haven't even said a word yet. We're big on hats out here. Although I tend not to wear mine unless he's out of town, which he is, because I don't want to steal his trademark.
Sure.
And then the quote, and it goes back to the speed comment, speed of business. We're very big and do it. Everybody knows the saying, other people wait for the storm to pass. We prefer to learn how to dance in the rain. Okay. We don't wait. If it's a good idea, it's a good idea, and we go. Okay. There's never a perfect time. Just go.
So I love about basketball. Why let the defense set up their press, get the ball out and run?
There you go.
With that, thank you for coming on the Public Sector Show by Tech Tables. Thank you guys.